Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dr. Randall Holcomb. I'm the director at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center. And this is a webinar to let you know about some additional information about the Clinical Research Professional Certificate Program that's being offered from the Cancer Center and through Outreach College at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. A few operational details to start with. All of you will probably notice that you're muted. That's to keep background noise at a minimum. We will have opportunity for questions and answers at the end. There should be along the bottom of your Zoom menu a button called Q&A. And so if you have questions, use that button and you can log those questions in. And then when we get to the time for question and answer, we'll try to take them all in order that they were received and try to make sure that we answer everybody's question. I don't believe that the chat function will work for you at the moment. So best to send messages through Q&A. I think they will go to the host if you send something through chat. Though I may not see it, but I'll get notified if there's some information there or something that I need to address. I'm going to share my screen here and actually go through a few slides which summarize the program. It will tell you a little bit about what the program is about, who might benefit, and some of the employment opportunities that may be available for people that complete this certificate program. And as I said, we'll leave plenty of time for all of your questions to be addressed. So hold on one second and let me see if I can get my screen on here. Hopefully you're able to see right now an image that says our certificate overview. And if you don't see that, raise your hand or send something through the question and answer button, and we'll try to sort out why that is. This is a certificate program, as I mentioned, through Outreach College. It's designed to train clinical research associates to work in clinical research. We have an extensive clinical research program here at the University of Hawaii Cancer Center. We are always looking to hire individuals who are trained as clinical research associates. We have positions here at the UH Cancer Center, but there are positions available through our affiliated hospitals. Those include Queens Health System hospitals, Hawaii Pacific Health Hospitals, as well as Adventist Health Castle. This certificate program is also will be of use if you're working in any other academic center that's involved or engaged in clinical research, other hospitals, as well as industry, the pharmaceutical industry, which hires many people for support of their clinical trials. The program is focused in oncology, but it includes information about basic statistical and epidemiologic methods, ethical and regulatory aspects of human subjects research, protocol development, etc. These are actually applicable to any field of clinical research. There will be a focus on oncology and some specific information about cancer clinical trials because most of the trials that we do here at the Cancer Center are focused on that. But this is an area that can be applicable for clinical trials in cardiovascular medicine, infectious diseases, and many other fields. We have designed this program to be broadly of interest to many different groups. We assume that we will get some people who are students who are planning for a future career in healthcare or biomedical sciences. This may also be of interest to people who are in the field of healthcare, nurses, allied health professionals, public health professionals. but it may actually be of interest for professionals in other fields as well who are looking for a career change, looking for something different, as long as they have had some experience with even natural sciences or healthcare. I think that this would be something that may be potentially very interesting for people as a new career path. As I mentioned, there are lots of jobs for clinical research professionals. There's a huge clinical trials market across the United States, and this is expected to grow over the next 5 to 10 years. In Hawaii, the average salary for clinical research professionals, and it depends a lot on the experience that these individuals bring as to what their starting salary would be, but the average salary range is usually between $45,000 and $85,000 a year. So these can be quite good paying jobs. Pharmaceutical industry tends to pay a little bit more, but there are a limited number of pharmaceutical industry positions in Hawaii, though there are many of them across the mainland. As I mentioned when I was doing my introduction, there are many different entities here in Hawaii who are employing clinical research professionals. This includes the Cancer Center, of course, as well as the John A. Burns School of Medicine, various different hospitals who work in affiliation with the Cancer Center, the medical school, the School of Nursing here at UH Manoa, and some pharmaceutical companies who have employed people here in Hawaii, as well as employment opportunities for people that travel back and forth between Hawaii and the West Coast. The certificate program information can be seen on the website, which is outreach.hawaii.edu/clinical research. On that website, you'll see that there is an opportunity for scholarships, what's called a 25% professional growth scholarship. And this is something that the Outreach College has done for this semester because of the difficult financial circumstances related to the COVID-19 pandemic. So there will be some a 25% scholarship available for everyone in the general public who enrolls on this program. There's an additional discount for individuals who are involved in the Hawaii Cancer Consortium. So if you have currently are employed at either the medical school, Kuakini Medical Center, the Queens Health Systems, Hawaii Pacific Health, or the Cancer Center, you'll get an additional discount. That's because the Hawaii Cancer Consortium is helping to support the program. So there are some avenues for financial support for this certificate program, which makes it a really good deal, to tell you the honest truth, for this upcoming semester. As I mentioned, we think that there will be some students who are interested in participating. We would accept undergraduate juniors or seniors who are full-time students and planning a career in science or health-related field. It doesn't have to be at UH Manoa. It can be at any of our four-year colleges or universities here in Hawaii. Public and private sector professionals who either have a natural sciences or healthcare background and have finished college or university with a bachelor's degree are also eligible for this course. These are some of the course outcomes which we expect that people will attain upon completion. There'll be a detailed knowledge about clinical research and what it really means to be a clinical research professional. All clinical research professionals, in whatever location they're working, whether it's here in Hawaii or elsewhere across the country, are also required to complete something called CITI certification. That's the Collaborative Institute for Training. And city certification will be attained as part of our certificate course. So we'll get all of the participants access to the city portfolio of training modules, and that will be part of the course so that people will be able to complete those modules. Those modules are pretty detailed, and one of the benefits of doing it in conjunction with this certificate course is that you will have instructors who can help answer questions about the city modules and make it really much easier to get through the entire course and attain that certification. You'll also get a certificate from the University of Hawaii Cancer Center documenting successful completion in the clinical research professional training program. We will have a few 3-month paid internships available following the course. People who complete the course and are interested in those internships to get a little more hands-on experience related to being a clinical research professional can apply for those internships upon completion of the course. So that's a summary of what the course is all about, a little description of the course, as well as who will benefit and some of the employment opportunities that are available. So I thought a few other items that are of particular importance is in the era here of COVID-19 and issues related to virus transmission. Many people have questions about how the course is conducted. This is really a hybrid course. We've got many online modules for people to complete, online assignments. We then will have face-to-face meetings once a week, Wednesday evenings for the course. These face-to-face meetings can be done in person or via Zoom, whichever is your preference. We will be holding them in the Sullivan Conference Center at the Cancer Center. This is a gigantic room here at the Cancer Center where people can be spaced out, maintaining ample social distancing. But we do have a setup in the Sullivan Conference Center so that we can allow people to log into that meeting, to that session by Zoom, and participate fully in that operation and activity remotely, if that's desired. This may be especially of interest for people on neighbor islands if they want to participate in this course. So let me, I'm going to start addressing some questions. It looks like I can answer live, which means a question comes up. I'm going to see if that happens. I think you might see that question. It's hard for me to tell. But the question is, are there any partners for employment on Maui? So that's a complicated question, to tell you the honest truth, which deserves a complicated answer. We don't do a lot of clinical research on Maui at the moment. It is something that we have been discussing for quite some time because we would really like to do that. I've had discussions with individuals at Maui Health about doing clinical trials there. I think that there will be opportunities for that in the future, but I have to say that right at the moment, most of the clinical trials opportunities are available here on Oahu. You know, it's a great question because we really want to expand our clinical trials network to Maui, but it takes more than just having a clinical research professional on Maui to do that. We would like to do that in the future, but right at this time, I would say that probably that's not a great, not a big number of opportunities there. Work from home job options in this field. That's a very good question. There are different parts of being a clinical research professional. Most people who are clinical research professionals are what we would think of under an older terminology as data managers. They are involved in collection of information while patients are on trials. They are often in the hospital or in doctors' offices, seeing patients, interfacing with them, and working with the medical care team. That's a difficult job to do from home, quite honestly. There are a few other aspects of being a clinical research professional. There is one group of clinical research professionals which would be called the regulatory affairs professionals. And they work not so much in interfacing with patients, but working on protocols, getting institutional review board or IRB approval, working on documents to file for adverse events with various sponsors, updating modifications to protocols, which are fairly frequent. Regulatory affairs professionals may be able to work from home. And so there may be an opportunity to work as a regulatory affairs individual from home, either aligned with a Hawaii-based institution like ours, or potentially even mainland institutions. I would say that in the past, most people would probably not hire people directly to work from home because they like to have people on site. But with the pandemic, I think everybody has become a little more comfortable in working with people from home. So I think there are opportunities in regulatory affairs specifically to potentially work from home. So this question is, I'm a full-time working professional in the healthcare industry. Would I be eligible for this program? That's the first question. The answer is yes. What other types of professionals, not students, would benefit from this program? So I think anybody working in healthcare who wants to expand and get involved in clinical research would be eligible for this program. There may be people who are working in other fields who have some either healthcare or natural sciences background that this may be appealing to. I think if people are not uncomfortable interfacing with patients, then this may be something that's of interest to them as well. I don't think that it necessarily has to be someone who's already in a healthcare field, but it does help to have some science background. The clinical trials and understanding them, does involve a little bit of science, but a lot of it is just being able to interpret information and being able to translate that to assist with patient care. You're not actually a healthcare provider as a clinical research professional, so you're not a nurse and you're not a physician, but you are working with those healthcare teams and assisting. So hopefully that answers your question. There's another question about outer islands. I think I probably answered that already. So how does clinical research vary from bench research? And I would say they are similar in that they're both research, but otherwise completely different. So bench research is typically in a laboratory and you're doing laboratory experiments, whereas clinical research involves, by its own definition, either patients or members of the public who would be participants in the trial. So we have very elaborate cancer prevention trials, for example. Those don't involve cancer patients per se, but they involve the general public who may be at risk for the development of cancer. And those trials are a research study, but they involve enrolling patients, getting them to sign informed consent, following an IRB-approved protocol, and helping to manage those patients while they're on a trial. Those trials could be observational or they could be interventional. So we could just be observing things. We could be getting a dietary history, for instance, and just observing for health effects. Or we could be intervening. We could, for example, a prevention trial that's related to diet, we could give people a specific diet, and then monitor various outcomes. So there are many different ways that clinical trials can be structured. Most cancer clinical trials involve cancer patients and involve some kind of treatment for the cancer, but there may be diagnostic trials, screening trials, as well as these prevention trials. So I think the big difference is that bench research is done in a laboratory, and clinical research is done in what we call in the field, either with the population or with a collection of patients. This is a good question. How many hours of coursework or homework per week outside of class? You know, it's going to vary from week to week. I would imagine that it's probably about 3 or 4 hours of coursework outside of the class time each week. When we do put in a week for the city modules to be completed, we actually give you the week off from sort of classroom time because that involves more home time. So there is homework, there is work to be done. There are assignments for many of the classroom hours that we will have, that we're asking people to complete those assignments before coming to class. Most of those will take a few hours of prep time to do that before participating in the classwork. So it's definitely more than just the Wednesday evening hours, the 3 hours or so on Wednesday evening. But I don't think it's a burdensome amount, and should be something that even people who are professionals and working in a full-time job should be able to do that. And we're going to try to be organized to make sure that the assignments are all clear and they're available for people before not in plenty of time, so that people have time to complete them. Growth opportunities for this industry, and are there secure jobs? That's a good question. So I think this field is growing. As you've heard with all the recent press about coronavirus vaccine trials, and they're talking about thousands of patients that are going to participate in these research trials. Those trials are all involving clinical research professionals who are following these patients while they're on a trial. And you can see that sometimes these trials can get very big, and lots of patients need to get followed, which means you need many clinical research professionals. They tend to be quite secure jobs, though especially if you're working in the pharmaceutical industry, you may be working on a particular trial. That trial may end, and then you get assigned to another trial. It doesn't mean that you lose your job. It just means that your assignments might change. There tend to be openings available most of the time, even here in Hawaii, for jobs. And that's because some of the individuals who work in the clinical trials office decide to move on to other careers in healthcare. Just for example, we have 3 people this year who are leaving the clinical trials office from the UH Cancer Center, not for any bad reasons, but because they're going to medical school. And this is something that they wanted to do, but didn't want to do right after they finished undergraduate. They're finishing their undergraduate degree, so they worked for a few years in clinical research. Honestly, we feel it probably helped them in their applications for medical school, because they demonstrated that they were doing something productive in a healthcare-related field. But people move on to other, sometimes they move out of Hawaii. We had one regulatory affairs associate who moved to Chicago because her spouse was in the military and they were getting reassigned. And she applied to various positions in Chicago and had 5 job offers in the first week. So usually these jobs are pretty in demand. I can't guarantee that there are always positions available here in Hawaii. But my experience, having been here at the Cancer Center for the last 4 years, is that we've always had some positions open. So we know that there's a significant need, and there's always a need at our partner hospitals within the Hawaii Cancer Consortium as well. Another question here is, would I need additional training to be a clinical researcher in pharmaceuticals? So if you're working in the pharmaceutical industry as a clinical research professional, no, I don't think you need additional training. If you're going to be working in a pharmacy and assisting with a research pharmacist, then yes, that would require some additional training, and that's not training that you would get from this course. Are students with a degree in physical science also eligible? So physical science, I assume, would mean earth sciences or physics or astronomy. You know, the answer is potentially yes, if this is something that you're interested in. I think that certainly wouldn't exclude you from being eligible for this program. So next person says they're in their 40s. Would this be for me? And is this a job I can retire with? So my answer would be, if it seems like something interesting to you, then yes, I think it's a job for you. And if you're in your 40s and you want to make this a career, we love for people who make this a career. Could you retire with this job? The answer is yes. So we actually had one person who retired from the clinical trials office this year, who had worked 40 years in clinical research. Because she loved it, and she didn't want to go on to some other kind of job. She loved doing what she was doing. So I think if you enjoy it, then it's absolutely something that you could participate in. So is the 25% scholarship available to all members of this program already represented in the $3,000 cost for the program? The answer is no. So it's listed at $3,000. You're going to get 25% scholarship available, deducted from that $3,000, which means for the general public, it's going to be $2,250. So the course is designed to be $3,000 based on the number of contact hours and work hours and such. But this scholarship is available for the fall semester. So you get it at that discounted price. Someone outside of healthcare who's looking for a career change, sure. That's why we've got the course, because this would allow you to really get a feel for what clinical research is like before just trying to switch jobs and taking another job. I think it gives you a head start on a position, and you know, someone looking for a career change, absolutely. Would this be a fit for you if you want to do pharmaceutical sales? I would say probably no. Sales is really different from working in clinical research. And so sales is much more of a marketing type of position. And you may want to look for other opportunities for training in marketing to be more eligible for something related to pharmaceutical sales. Application process for this program, I think, is outlined on the website. Again, that's outreach.hawaii.edu/clinical research. We have set up the program with the anticipation that we would probably start with an initial class of 20 people. We haven't actually discussed exactly what we would do if we got a few more than 20. So I can't tell you if we're going to make that a hard stop at 20 or whether we'll let a few more in. We want to make sure that we have we aren't too big, but if there is a um, more than 20, then we'll be back in contact with everybody about eligibility and whether we can get you into the program on this cycle, or whether there'll be an opportunity again for a future when we do the course again. Let's see. Typical day as a clinical researcher in the Cancer Center. So one of the things about this certificate course is that, I can tell you what a typical day will be, in a few minutes here, but you're actually going to get instruction from people who are working on the ground floor of clinical research and are doing these activities daily. So you'll get direct exposure to the people who are working in clinical research and get a really good idea about what their day is like. So the regulatory affairs people are reading through protocols. They're working on IRB submissions. It's really a desk and computer-based sort of position. People who work in compliance, which is another area of being a clinical research professional, it's a little more niche area, are doing exactly what the name sounds like. They're looking at how studies are being conducted. They're conducting audits of studies. It's a little more specialized field, and usually people go into compliance after they've worked as a clinical research professional data manager for some period of time. Not always, but often. Data managers have, depending upon their level of experience, we have a few different levels. They usually work in teams of 2 or 3 people together who would be supporting clinical research at a particular site. Those who are newest to the job do a lot of work in the office on computers, entering data for clinical trials. There's a lot of information which we gather about patients who are on clinical trials that we need to track, enter into various databases to make sure that we are going to be in compliance with all of the clinical trials responsibilities. The people who are a little bit more experienced with that, we usually start people at that sort of data entry level, and then they move up to another level that is more involved with interfacing with the healthcare team, helping to enroll patients onto clinical trials, talking to patients directly about the clinical trials. That takes a little more experience. And the way we've structured our clinical research office, we have several different levels for the data managers with increasing responsibility as they move up the levels. And we've done that to essentially create a career ladder for people so that they can start and be successful at one set of tasks and responsibilities, and then move on to something which is a little more complex. So if you have an associate's degree, but you have over 20 years experience in healthcare, are you eligible? The answer is, I think, technically, according to the website and how we've set up the requirements, the answer is no, because we've asked for people to have a 4-year college degree. But I think that that's something that we would have to discuss with you about what kind of things you've been doing in healthcare to see if we could potentially offer an exception for that. And we're certainly open to do that. Is there a textbook for the course? The answer is no. We'll be providing lots of online materials and some PDF materials for reading that we'll send to everybody electronically. And then, of course, we'll have lecture materials, which we will share with you as well, but no specific textbook that you need to purchase for this course. Next question, I think we answered. So in the HPR interview, thank you for listening to me on HPR. It actually popped up on HPR, and I hadn't known that it had already gone on there until somebody called me. So I had to go back and find it and listen to it. So there are about 40 positions, which are active positions here in Hawaii, between the Cancer Center and our affiliated hospitals, just in cancer clinical research. Not all of those 40 positions are open. So right now, I think we have 5 or 6 positions that are open, and 30 or so that are filled. So it's not 40 positions. If it was 40 positions, we'd have to have a course, for many more than 20 people. So I think that what I tried to describe was that there is a workforce here, even just here in Hawaii, for this, and there are usually always some open positions that we're recruiting to, and we'd really like to be able to recruit people that are trained here in Hawaii and not have to bring people in from the mainland. The $45,000 positions are the people who starting out, and the $85,000 positions are people who've been in clinical research for a while. So it just depends upon your level of expertise, maybe some other training. I mean, those numbers. If someone's a nurse, for instance, and goes into clinical research and is a research nurse, they're probably going to make more money than that anyway, because nurses tend to make more money than that, and there are always positions available for research nurses as well. So it depends a little bit on what people's qualifications and backgrounds are. Neighbor islands, are any of the positions on Oahu travel friendly or available to us? So yeah, I mean, maybe. I mean, I think that, for instance, if you're doing work that is mostly computer-based, could you be working remotely from a neighbor island? The answer is yes. And so I think that's a possibility, and I wouldn't want to exclude that. So data it says, besides data managers and regulatory affairs, are there other types of positions, functions within the CRP role? So yeah, there are a few. They're a little bit smaller in number as to the number of available positions. Compliance, I already talked about a little bit. Those tend to be smaller number of people working in that area. There are also some people that work in clinical research that are fiscal or budget managers. So for instance, if someone's gone to business school and wants to do something else and wants to be involved in clinical research, the business side of clinical research, so contracting and working on budgets and reimbursement, that's a position that could be available as well. I know that because we currently have that position open and we're recruiting someone for it. This is someone who might be in the Cancer Consortium after the application deadline. Would you be able to take advantage of the additional discount? And I don't think we've addressed that situation, but I'd say sure. We'll figure out how to do that. We are not taking part-time students at the moment for the student discount for people who are working toward a bachelor's degree as part-time students. The city certification is included in the cost of the course. You are not charged extra for the city certification. You may well be aware that if you just signed up for it individually on your own, you would have to pay a fee for the city certification. We will cover that as part of the, we will use some of the tuition dollars to cover that fee. Do these positions offer benefits such as health, sick, vacation, one-year contract, etc.? These are not part-time jobs; they're real jobs. So when you get hired by us or any of the hospitals, they come with benefits. Health care, sick days, vacation days. Most of the people here at the Cancer Center are hired through what's called RCUH, the Research Corporation of the University of Hawaii, and you get a regular benefit package for that. And the first year when you get hired is usually a probationary year to ensure that you're doing okay on the job, and then after that it's just a regular full-time job. So I think you don't have to be concerned about that. Here's a question about whether the recording of this session can be made available. I don't know the answer to that, but I'll check with the Outreach College as to whether the recording is going to be posted on the website as under questions and answers. Let's see what else we got here. It says, oh, there's a message. We are recording and we'll send a link to all who enrolled in the webinar after it's posted. So you will get that. Let's see, promotion opportunities. So as I was mentioning before, we have constructed a clinical research office to have a career ladder so that people start at an entry level and move up to positions with more responsibility. More responsibility usually means more pay as well. And so yes, there are some promotion opportunities available. And really, most of the centers around the country have recognized that if we don't make those sorts of opportunities available, that people don't stay in the job long term, because people like to have career advancement. So yes, there are some promotion opportunities as well. Wow, I think I've gone through all the questions. I think we're just about at the end of our 45 minutes. The recording will be posted. That will include the slides that I showed in the beginning that have some additional information about the clinical research professional course. As I said, go to the website outreach.hawaii.edu/clinical research, and you'll find more information. There is an opportunity for the Professional Growth Scholarship for this semester, and for an additional discount for people who are currently working at one of the Hawaii Cancer Consortium member sites. So I think that's a good opportunity. There is one additional question just to clarify, and the answer is yes. Class time is once a week for 3 hours on Wednesday evenings. If you come in person, you'll get a bento box dinner as well. If you're zooming in online, we can't give you dinner, but we'll interact with you over the Zoom then at that time. I think that's it for the questions and for the webinar, and I want to thank everybody for your attention, and please feel free to send us a note through the website if you have other questions. We'll try to get them answered as best we can. Thank you very much.